I'm Kellon Sanders, and
I'm Jason Honorecker.
and this is Slow Burn, where we talk about all sorts of concepts, ideas, life principles, things of that nature that we've learned along the way and are still continuing to learn. And we think that we might have a little bit of information to share from people that are younger than us and maybe want to learn how to be successful. We have a little bit of taste of success. Been around the block a couple times.
Also have a good taste of failure, which is
lot,
another important
yeah.
part of it.
So I call myself the CEO of mistakes because I've made so many of them. And I still do all the time. It's constant and never stops. It seems like it's every day. I'm like, or every week at least, I'm like, that was a huge mistake.
I probably don't make enough mistakes. I'm probably too careful.
Yeah. So if you guys have never listened to us before, we have completely opposite backgrounds. We have complete opposite personalities, but have been great friends for 22 years now.
Long time. Yep.
Long time.
Since 2003,
Yeah.
or 2002 we both started college. So
Yeah. So about
that time.
2003, then we started becoming
good friends.
Yeah,
Yep.
good friends. 2003. We'll have to share about that on another episode because that's a pretty funny story. But today we agreed that we would talk about digital minimalism or limiting technology in your life,
Yeah.
right?
Getting the grasp on that big part of your life that you can't really get away from. But
And we do want to preface this podcast with this. Even though you're probably watching us on a technical device, on a piece of technology, whether it's a phone or iPad or a computer, or you're listening to us in your car, whatever it may be, we don't discourage using technology. We encourage using technology correctly. So, I have seen some people encourage the disuse of technology on a device, and you're like, why are you telling me not to use technology on a piece of technology?
Right.
We don't want to encourage you not to use it. We just want to point out the benefits and the setbacks of using it and how you could probably create a more meaningful life with entering technology into it and not building a life around it. So
Right.
It should support your life instead of you supporting it.
So we're not asking people we know no one's going to be jumping into the Amish lifestyle and like getting rid of their cars.
Right.
That's just ridiculous.
Living in the woods by yourself.
It's ridiculous. So,
Yeah.
but it is important to make sure that technology is used as a tool, like you said.
Yeah.
You can't have it running your life. It's supposed to be a tool that you have complete control of and you use when you want to, and you eliminate from your life when you don't need it in there. So.
Right, exactly.
It's very hard to do.
It is very hard to do. As far as technology is concerned, this isn't something that we asked for, right? So it just kind of developed that way. Our society, our world developed that way with technology being entered into our life, and there's really nothing you can do to get away from it. Unless you, like you said, Jason, you could be Amish or, and even they use technology, actually,
Right.
as long as it supports their life and it supports their cause and they can all benefit from it, they will still use the technology.
Right.
It depends on what it is, and their community has to agree to it. I don't want to get off subject too much, but this isn't a situation, technology isn't a situation where you decided to buy a home or you decided to buy a car or you decided to date somebody. You made those conscious decisions. Technology has been imposed on us.
Yeah, you have no choice but to be part of it.
You have no choice. And you haven't since the fax machine was around, or the light bulb was invented. I
Right.
mean, that's how far back it goes, and you have to use it now to keep up.
And the problem is it's an addictive part of your life. It can be very addictive, and so it's like you're being asked you're being forced to participate in something in your life that is addictive, or
Right.
it can become a beast that you don't have control of. So it takes a lot of wisdom and maturity and skill to be able to interact with something that is that dangerous for you. Because I would say it's dangerous.
It is dangerous.
It will steal your time. It will steal your goals and your purpose from your life. you'll waste years and not even realize.
Not even realize it.
You're just blowing your whole livelihood on this piece of your life that you don't have a choice but to interact with. So the key is to figure out how to develop those skills to actually take control back without removing yourself completely, which you can't do.
Which you can't do. That's exactly right. So one of the hardest parts about having technology, kind of like what you just said, Jason, is that it is around you all the time. So how do you navigate using technology in such a way that is not harmful to you? Because in the 70s and 80s, when TV, color TV became wildly popular, a lot of people would lay around for hours after work from 5:30 until they went to bed at 10 at night, just watching television. Now that has morphed from being a couch potato in front of a TV to being on a device, watching YouTube or social media or keeping up with the news or the sports or the weather or whatever. People are always glued to their devices.
Yeah.
And now, instead of a couch potato, you're a walking zombie. That's what everybody is.
Right.
And there's a term for it that I can't remember. It's like not snubbing, but it's like not snugging, but it's something close to that.
Dougie.
Huh?
The Dougie.
The Dougie. So there's something close to that term where there's a phrase for it now where you are offending somebody when you're on your phone when you're around them. And so it's a new term that's come out.
Basically, when your attention is completely directed towards your devices and you're ignoring people around you, right?
Right. That's exactly right.
And all of you in the audience can think of times, and you may be the perpetrator here, but you can think of times where you're walking through the hallways. I do it in the hospital all the time. I'll walk through the hallways, and then people who I know are actually on the job, on the clock, walking down the hallway, just holding their phone in front of them, and they can't even acknowledge the people around them. They're almost bumping into people as they're walking through the hallway. And I mean, there are times when I'm on my phone while I'm walking, if I know I need to respond to a text message more urgently, which does happen. I mean, obviously people have those situations, but for the most part, if you can't walk down a hallway and be able to put your phone in your pocket for that length of time because you need some kind of stimulation in front of your face, then you have got a problem.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a massive problem.
And by the way, the word is phubbing.
Phubbing.
Yeah, phone snubbing. It's when you are interacting with somebody like at dinner and you're on your phone.
That's
it's called
definitely
phubbing.
a 2023 word.
Yeah, it just came out. So,
Sounds ridiculous.
Yeah,
but
it does. It does sound ridiculous, but it's true. I can't tell you how many times I've been at dinner or I've been at a coffee shop and every single person is on their phone and nobody's interacting.
all at the same table, right?
All of them. All at the same table over the entire building.
The whole restaurant.
Everybody, yeah. And I'm like, man, this is freaking, and I'm guilty too, but I'm like, man, this is freaking sad.
There's a scene from the movie, I think it's Wall-E, the old animated movie, but there's a scene where it's showing like modern society in the future, and it's people just in their lazy boy chair but it hovers.
Yeah.
And they're just hovering around, just like watching TV, eating snacks,
Right.
like just everywhere. So it just takes them
and
around.
it floats everywhere and they just tell it where it
There's
wants
this
to
bunch
go.
of massively obese people just sitting in chairs, eating food and watching TV as it carries them around to the places
Right.
they need to go. They don't walk anywhere.
I remember that. That's where we're headed.
That it feels like we're
There.
so close to being there already. Like
Right.
It's to the point where it's bothered me enough recently just seeing myself ignore my family and be on my phone in the evenings when I come home from work that it has really affected me.
Yeah.
I've started making some changes, and throughout different parts of my life in the last 5 to 10 years, I've definitely seen this problem creep up, and I've taken steps at different times to try to fix this, but it always creeps back because like I said, it's addictive and you can't get
You got to
away
get
from
on your phone to send an email, and the next thing you know, you're looking at Facebook or whatever notification has popped up, and then 3 hours later you're still on it.
Yeah.
It's so easy. So you have to decide for yourself, do you want to be a man or woman of purpose, and do you want to live a fulfilling life? And if you do, then you need to pay attention to this issue, because it's an issue that is very subtle, and it underlies. It's not so damaging that you're going to lose your job,
Right.
or you're going to be destitute, homeless, but it will steal your life. It'll steal your time, and next thing you know, you're going to be 65 years old going, what have I done? I've been on my phone for 40 years.
Yeah.
So pay attention to that. If you're a person of purpose, and you care about living a meaningful, purposeful life at all, you will heed our warning, and you will pay attention to this, because, like I said, it will steal your time, and that will steal your life. If you don't care, then ignore us, and we're the wrong podcast for you.
Just go wandering through your desert.
Go listen to somebody else. That would probably be more ideal for you.
But we talk a lot about having purpose with your life, and how that should affect all of your decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis. And so the people that are going to listen to us are people that want to achieve something and have goals, and they are looking for ways to be successful.
Right.
The ones that are just looking for goofy entertainment or whatever,
we're not for you.
You can probably move on.
Yeah. So how do you go about doing this, right? How can you go about limiting your digital life, whether it's through the TV or your iPad or your phone or whatever? It's really a simple process. It's only a 3-step process. The first step is that you have to cold turkey remove technology from your life. I don't mean like removing your electronic toothbrush, I mean, or removing the light bulbs out of your house, but removing the things that can distract you on a continual basis, with the exception of responding to family and work through phone calls and texts and emails. But you need to limit 95% of your usage. Just cold turkey, you have to cut it off. Not wean yourself, you have to cold turkey it. So studies show that you really should cold turkey this first step. You should cold turkey probably 2 to 4 weeks. 4 weeks is the most beneficial that you should do.
All right, this is about the amount of time that this takes to create a habit, or
exactly.
to build a habit. So that
right.
2 to 4 week period is how long you need to establishing a new baseline, basically.
Right. So the first few days are going to be really hard, just like you breaking any other habit that you have. The first few times that you go to work out, it's such a struggle to get in there. The few times you run, it's such a struggle. The first time you quit eating whatever fast food, or maybe you need to wake up earlier, the first few days are always the hardest. That's always hardest in the behavioral change. So expect that. Okay. So
basically, it's going to be painful if you're doing it right.
It's going to be painful, yeah, and you're going to have to push through it. There's no other way around it. So, but what do you do? Like I said, there's 3 steps. So what's step 2? What do you do during that 30 days? You have to find what I call active leisure. So active leisure are things that you're going to participate in, that you enjoy doing, like a hobby, even though I hate using the word hobby because it just sounds like
old-fashioned.
It does sound very old. I'm going to sew today or whatever,
Like I'm going to knit chess.
Yeah. I love chess, Jason. Okay, so like, for example, picking up cooking classes and learning to be a good cook, painting, gardening, any other, hobbies that you
mountain biking like I do.
Mountain biking like you do. Exactly. I enjoy reading. I love writing. Those are some, and I really enjoy working out. I spend 2 to 3 hours a day working out and doing cardio. So those are my active leisures. And there's a ton that you can do out there: golf, tennis, racquetball. I mean, you name it, you can find something. So
it's probably similar to the ways that people learn how to quit smoking. So you can remove cigarettes from your life, but then you have to put something in that place, or else that void will just be filled back up with smoking.
Right.
So if you're taking technology out of your life, you have to replace it with
something else in there. Yeah. But you will find that you will be much more fulfilled. You will be much happier, because whether you realize it or not, you do become a zombie after a period of time sitting on your phone constantly, and you get kind of disgruntled and you feel uneasy, and you're like, something just doesn't feel right. Just human beings aren't meant to be on their phones all the time. We weren't born with a phone in our hand. We weren't made that way. So we're created to be in nature, and we're created to be social, and we're created to go experience things in this world, not sit on a phone all day long.
Right. It's like the word that some people use to describe it is like false experience or false happiness. So you're getting this joy or some kind of reward or happiness from that time you spend on your device, whether you're on social media or playing video games or even just texting. But it's that happiness that it creates inside of you is not
We
real.
say it's like kind of an imposter in a way, right?
Yeah,
Wouldn't you say that?
it's like an imposter happiness because it's
Like a fake happiness.
it's feeding that it's kind of feeding that dopamine that makes your brain think, oh, this is enjoyable. But then it's kind of like eating a donut or eating candy. Like you feel that joy, that reward right in the moment, but then it leaves you completely empty. So the same thing with spending time on technology that is not task oriented or goal oriented or purposeful. It's like eating a donut. You feel that joy in the moment, but then afterwards you feel emptier after you do that, after you spend time doing that than you did before.
Right. That's interesting. So during step 2, you're kind of figuring out some of these things that you enjoy, and you're going to have to experiment with a lot of stuff. You may try multiple things that you're like, I don't really like doing that. So go try something else. So I really like that, that fake happiness, like you said, because if you get on social media at all and you are constantly on there, like, did somebody like my whatever that I just put out? Did somebody like my picture or my video? What did people say? Or did people react to my comment or whatever it is? People are drawn to see that reaction, but the more of that reaction that you get, it's like a percentage of a real healthy interaction. Right. So go have an analog conversation with somebody, right? Go have a real meaningful, if you like somebody's, cute baby, why don't you go visit that baby instead of liking the photo? Cut all that stuff out and go actually experience life instead of doing it on social media.
Or even second best is, if you're going to interact digitally, do it live on video, where there's video, you can directly talk to these people,
a little
like
bit
FaceTime,
more,
because then at least you're getting interactive face-to-face time. So, the worst possible way to do it is interacting on social media through messages and just pictures, because that's not accomplishing
It's
anything.
so shallow.
Yeah,
it's so shallow.
But analog, when we were talking about preparing for this episode, talking about analog basically is the opposite of digital, but you can use analog to mean anything that happens in real life these days.
Yeah.
It used to just mean, analog audio recordings was using like real tape instead of computerized stuff. But now in this context, analog is basically anything that happens in real life instead of over a screen.
Sure.
Which it's sad that it's come to that, but that's where we are.
That's where we are. Yeah. So the third step is then reintegrating technology back into your life. So whenever you're reintegrating it back into your life, a big mistake a lot of people make is that they reintroduce all of their technology back into their life that they cut out. You're not supposed to do that. You're only supposed to reintroduce the technology into your life that supports your new lifestyle that you created. So, and on top of that, you should be limiting any garbage probably isn't the right word, but the low quality type of interaction that you have with your phone, like social media. You should proactively set aside 30 minutes a day, an hour a day, whatever is suitable for you, and you should set that time aside so that you can explore, having fun on that app or game or whatever it is that you're using, the news or whatever. But you should, after you build this life through step 2 over that 30-day period, you're going to want to enter in the technology that that supports it and makes sure that life better that you created.
Right.
Yeah, only the stuff that supports it, not the stuff that pulls you away from that new life that you created.
So there's that.
You have to be very proactive about this stuff. You can't just leave it up to chance.
Right. If you just default into it, then you'll default into old habits because that's the easiest path, right? It's like the rushing water is going to find the easiest pathway. It'll sink back down into those ruts that you've been building over time.
Right.
There's that book, Digital Minimalism, that I think you looked through, and
Cal Newport.
Yeah, it was like the concept had been around before that book, but he really put the labels onto it and described what this thing is, digital minimalism, and then started describing the benefits of that. And so in that book, he really talks about low value digital noise, which is digital noise being that time spent with technology that offers nothing to your life. So that you kind of brought up that concept in your last comment, just that digital noise is that low value, that low value time spent where you're not, it's not purposeful. It's not actually adding into your life, adding towards your goals, building towards something. It's just noise without purpose. So that's what you're really in that first step. You're eliminating all of the technology that you can to the maximum degree possible. And then when you're adding stuff back in, you're adding just that high value stuff, things that are really purposeful and intentional. If you're not choosing intentionally to spend time interacting with technology, then you're doing it wrong.
You're doing it wrong. That's exactly right.
You should have specific times and specific limits on what you're doing when you're interacting with technology. So social media should be purposeful if you're going to use it. And I would recommend for most people, social media is one of the worst offenders. And when you're adding things back into your life that add value, that should be one of the last things.
Should
that
be
you
one of
add
the
back
last,
in,
absolutely.
if at all.
Yeah.
I would even suggest in this day and age,
getting off of it.
Just get off.
Yeah,
and I can't tell you how much better I felt like
my
life
God.
was when
I feel so much better without social media. My life is exponentially better.
It does not add. It does not add to my life.
Anything. No, not at all.
I do.
I think it does.
Right. You feel like
I feel like it does.
When you get back onto it, you're like, oh man, all these pictures of these people that I used to interact with, that I was friends with, I was missing all this. And you get that weird FOMO feeling like you were missing out on something while you weren't involved in social media. But then you go back to not spending time on it again. And you're like, oh man, this is just way better.
It's so much better. It's so much more peaceful.
They've done, they looked at studies and looked at statistics and data about specifically social media throughout the last 20 years as it's become part of our lives. And they've shown with adolescents, so teenagers, they've shown that whenever it became more accessible to teenagers, they showed that rates of depression and anxiety started increasing pretty noticeably.
Really?
So around, I think 2012, 2013, around there, adolescents, younger people started using social media more, and they saw this uptick. And it's not the only factor.
Mental health.
Yeah, depression, anxiety, specifically those two things.
Right.
And you've seen those things skyrocket since that time, and it correlates pretty closely with the amount of time spent in social media.
Right.
And I think it's not just because of social media, it's because it's now replacing meaningful time interacting face-to-face with other people. So they're not...
and it's so easy to compare yourself to other people on there, especially for women.
Yeah.
They're wanting to compare themselves to other women. I mean,
and they've shown that's the worst usage of social media, especially for teenagers in early 20s.
Like, look at this girl, look what she has going on, her hair and
self-esteem,
her lifestyle, and
self-esteem drops dramatically.
Wow.
You get to see, the phrase I've heard from speakers and different experts before is, you see everyone's highlight reel,
sure,
and you're comparing it to your outtakes,
right?
So you're looking at what people, the best curated version of someone's life,
right,
and then you're comparing it to everything you know about your life, which you always compare it to the worst parts of your life,
of course.
And so it affects when you're when you're old enough to have that frontal cortex developed, you can sort through that a little better and not let it affect you quite the
Quite as
same way.
much,
But when
right.
you're young, you don't
don't
have
know
the
the
ability to
difference.
filter it out.
Right.
It just it shatters you, and so
Sure.
you get kids even at 8, 9, 10 years old who are starting to have thoughts of suicide, and a big part of it comes through social media and the bullying and the comparisons, and you can't escape it. It's 24 hours a day.
Right.
So if it's, if they've done those studies, and I'm a pediatrician, so that's where I come from in some of these things when I'm looking at how this affects our lives. But if you're seeing it affect young teenagers this way, you have to know that it's having similar effects, and they've shown that too. But it's having similar effects on grown adults. That it's changing rates of depression and anxiety and suicidal thoughts, and a lot of it's because it's replacing those meaningful relationships. So a long time ago, when a kid wanted to go play with their friends, they just run over to
Go
their friend's
outside.
house,
Yep.
run down the street, knock on the door, or not, just walk in the house because it's someone that you're over at their house every night.
For
so
sure.
you walk in and their mom's like, "Hey, do you want some
Hey,
pizza
you want some to
bites?"
eat? Yeah.
Yeah. Bagel bites
Yep.
or whatever. And you just walk in, grab a bagel bite, sit down, hang out with your friend. Even if you were sitting down playing video games, you were still interacting.
Yeah.
Now you don't even have to do that. You can sit in your own living room,
Play your
get
own
on a
video
headset,
games.
play
Yep.
video games with other people, and not even have to see them.
Right.
You don't have to leave your living room. So it's all this technology that's replacing all the things that have given us meaning over the years, over decades and decades, and ultimately hundreds of years. Now that we've been growing and evolving as humans to really depend on face-to-face human interaction, and now we're replacing all of that with technology, and we're expecting to still have happy, meaningful lives, and it's not happening.
Right. One of the podcasts that we're going to do soon is solitude. And that is going to be a very good one that we discuss, because during this process of weaning yourself off, or not weaning yourself off, but quitting the technology based addiction that a lot of people have, is that you're going to have to spend a lot of time by yourself. So we'll have to do a podcast at some point about solitude. I personally love being in solitude. It's one of my favorite parts of my life, is being by myself, because I enjoy being with me. And so
Now
I do. Yeah, I used
That
to
wasn't
be.
always the case.
My God, I could not. Everywhere I went, I didn't want to be there because I was there, and I did not want to do. I did not want to deal with that.
I gotta get out of here. I'm here.
This guy's irritating me. Oh, it's me. Oh, okay. Yeah. So we'll have to do that. We'll have to create a podcast on that.
That's very much a Family Guy joke. Like,
Yeah.
I gotta get out of here.
I'm
here.
I'm here. That's funny. So, yeah.
Tell me how different parts of your life and how you have seen this topic become a problem for you, and something that you was really affecting your mental health, and then times when you have started to get better control of that, and how it changed all the other parts of your life at those times.
So for me, coming from an extremely addictive background, technology was something that I could easily latch myself onto without question. It's so easily accessible that I could just instantly get on it and waste my time. My biggest problem is that it causes me not to be present. That is that's my biggest issue with technology, and still today, it can get in the way if I don't catch it. And so I will oftentimes find myself on social media, for example, and I think they call it doom scrolling whenever you're just scrolling for. So I would do that, and I'm like, I'll catch myself like, this is so unfulfilling, and I can feel myself like being sucked into that. And then once I put it away, I feel myself come out of it 30 minutes later. I'm like, man, that was terrible what I just entered into. And then next thing you know, during that time, I'm not being present with my kids. Like, there's all sorts of games that we love playing around my house. Well, if I get sucked into it, I'll just go lay in my bed and not pay attention to them at all. And then when I get out of it and I'm playing a game with them or doing a puzzle with them, I'm like, this is so much more rewarding. This is so much more fulfilling than sitting on my phone in my room in the dark by myself. It's just such a terrible feeling doing that, you know? So that's one of the biggest, for me, that's one of the biggest issues that I have with it, is because I really enjoy being present in everything that I can possibly be present with. And I really think that relationships are the most important part of life, and it can easily pull away from something that I value so incredibly much, which is relationships. And it's such a big distraction from that.
The way it works for me, and I see this happen time and time again, and it's hard for me because one of my issues is I just crave knowledge and information. That's just how my brain works. Yeah. And the internet and YouTube is just the endless treasure trove of information. And a lot of it is great information. Like it can be very helpful and very important to continue educating yourself on whatever it may be. But it becomes addictive, and it's the first domino for me. You have this domino effect that trickles down into a life that just is spiraling into being unproductive,
right?
Wasting vast amounts of time in
to
things
the point
that are
where
not
you're like
important.
studying how many nuts a squirrel gets in the month of November or something, like some ridiculous rabbit hole. Yeah, at 2 a.m, right?
And everyone has done this and knows people who talk about it all the time. And for me, it's bad. I will go into the YouTube rabbit hole for hours until wee hours of the morning.
Right.
And it spirals. So it starts off with being on YouTube or whatever, on technology too late in the evening, so where I'm not going to bed on time.
Yeah.
And then once that happens, and I'm not getting enough sleep, that domino knocks into all the rest of them. So then I can't wake up in the morning. I can't practice the things in the morning before work that I need to do, like getting exercise, writing, reading, doing things that I want to do to build
enhance your life. Yeah.
And so then I'm getting to work late and I'm tired and I haven't worked out, so my energy level is down. Now I can't work like I need to efficiently with a clear head, and then it spirals from there. So now I'm kind of chasing some kind of good feeling after work because I'm tired and I'm exhausted. So I'm like, oh, I just need to relax and watch a YouTube, and then it
goes over and
spirals down further.
Yeah. So
I know for myself, when I have to get back on track, the very first thing I have to do is I take this right here, which I always have with me because I'm always on call. I always have things that I need to access on here.
Right.
I can't give it up. It's part of my life, but I will take this phone, and when I get home from work, I will put it in a cabinet out of the way and just leave it there, not touch it.
Right.
I can still get phone calls and text messages if I need to. They'll come to my watch. But I have all other notifications to my watch turned off because I don't want to see them.
So that's I like your strategy there. I was going to ask you, what steps do you take in order to make sure that you don't spiral out of control?
That's what I have to do. I have to remove the options for myself because
you have to be proactive and recognize this is my issue and this is how I'm going to get around it. I'm going to take these steps so that I can still be proactive and with my life and have a good life, but also integrate the technology with it. But with healthy boundaries, right?
Setting up boundaries that are difficult for me to get past without having to make some effort. So if I take my phone and I put it away, if I want to get in there to use it, I can't just be walking through the kitchen and be like, oh, hey there, I might just look on my phone and check some videos or whatever. I have to go into the cabinet, pull it out of the cabinet, and intentionally use it in the wrong way.
You know what's funny is that I have my kids, I have their own refrigerator upstairs in the movie theater room, and I make them put all their crap food up there and put a lock on it with that I don't know the combination to. And I'm like, keep the donuts and the ding dongs and the gushers and keep all that crap all the way upstairs in a refrigerator that I don't know the combination to. That way it's out of sight, out of mind. And if it comes into sight and mind, I can't get in it.
So you're treating it like hardcore drugs. Like I
Yeah.
need you to lock it away and throw
Yeah.
away the key where I don't have access to it.
Man, I'm an addict through and through, and I know myself. So I'm like, this is what it takes, man. I'm just gonna have to do this, you know.
So that's what I have to do is the first thing is take the things that are the biggest offenders and just set as many boundaries for myself that are difficult to break as possible.
Here's a question for you: Could you give access to the technology that is detrimental to you, and could you give it to somebody else so that it can be limited, so that the time can be limited?
Like have someone else interact with those things?
Have somebody else put like a time passcode on it, almost like you would with your kids, right?
Yeah, there's ways to do that.
But you give it to your spouse, or
Right.
you give it to like a good, close accountability partner
So
or
if
friend.
if my spouse wanted anything to do with technology, this would work for me. But she doesn't want.
Right.
She doesn't like technology, which for her works great.
Yeah.
But for me, it means my accountability partner doesn't want to participate in the things
Right.
that I need. So
That you need, right?
but there are ways to on your phone, on your computer. There's ways to set limits on screen time.
But you could do that, but you could also go in there and access and turn it off. But if you give that
Yeah.
that to somebody else and they have control, and you're like, I want you to only give me 30 minutes on this app a day, 30 minutes on this one. And by the way, here's my password to download anything.
Right.
So that I can't download garbage and put it on my phone.
Yeah, so there's
Like,
ways
that
to
is a
set,
very, that's
it's
a
almost
pretty-
like parental controls.
Right.
And you can give someone else the
Spousal
control, and they
control.
have the password to change it.
Right.
And you can if you need it this badly, which I would argue a lot of people do, you can go in and give someone else the password and set those limits on your apps, on your screen time, where you can't get past it without putting in that passcode,
that
and you don't know
passcode.
it. So you have to ask someone for it, and then they can say, "Well, why do you need extra time?
Yeah.
Are you doing something?
Why do you
helpful and
need to get
productive?"
on Twitter for an hour tonight?
Yeah, like or maybe you can say, "Listen, I've done all the things on my task list for today, and so I feel like I have the time to do this because I've earned it today." And so they say, "Okay, that sounds good."
That's true.
But then you have that person who's the biggest influence in your life. Then you have that accountability there. The other thing that I've done recently, that I just recently discovered, is setting my phone to grayscale instead of color.
Okay.
So it's in accessibility. It's almost like a handicap function for your phone.
Like you can triple click it and it'll go to that.
Well,
or
you
double
can set
click.
it up that way.
Okay.
If you just go on Google and just say either iPhone or Android, whichever one you have, or
Grayscale.
set phone to
mode.
grayscale mode. It'll give you step-by-step ways to do that. And then so I can do that on my phone, and nothing shows up in color. It's all gray. And they've shown with legitimate research, they've shown that you will pick up your phone and use it less because it's less stimulating,
Less enticing, less stimulating.
It's like the difference
interesting.
between watching a black and white film and watching a color film, which there are people out there that will argue with that because there's a lot of people that still love watching black and white films, but the reason they do like watching those is because you get to focus more on the dialogue and the people in the
Right.
film instead of all the visual effects and the things that are not really part of the meat of the film. And so
Right.
when you go to pick up and use your phone and it's set to grayscale or black and white, then you're using
Become
it
kind of
intentionally.
disenchanted with it in a way.
You have to go use it intentionally, and then you can't even visually find where your apps are. You have to kind of look through and see like, oh, here's my app for this, and you have to use it on purpose. So it kind of forces you to use it on purpose, and it's less stimulating, so you're less likely to use it for just casual recreational activity.
Okay.
And it actually, as I've used it that way, it's actually it's worked. So it actually
That's good.
changes how I'm not as interested in using my phone if it's not in color.
Right. That's interesting.
So
I didn't know that.
it's kind of cool.
Anything else that you do to
Notifications on my phone, so or whatever. So setting my phone so where only mission critical notifications come through. So I need to get phone calls and text messages because those are sometimes really important in my line of work.
Call, right.
But other things like news, social media, other apps that you have, the vast majority of those things are not mission critical for those who think that Twitter and Instagram notifications are really important. Now, maybe they are for your work. So you
can enable
marketing,
that stuff though.
You can, and there are people who would say you can do that 1 week at a time. So you can set up all of your posts a week ahead of time,
right?
And then have a hands off for the rest of the time.
And so you can also generate auto replies, and that'll say, I'll respond to you when we open at 8 or 9 a.m., whatever it is.
Yep. Or you can have specific times during the week. So you can have, on Mondays and Thursdays are the days that I get on and I respond to all my social media, my important work-related social media. I do all that on certain days of the week. The rest of the week, I don't access it.
Right.
There are people who would say, even with email, don't get email on your phone. Turn email on your phone off, and then get access email at specific times of the week. And then the rest of the week, say you could have an auto reply that says, I check my email at such and such days, and I'll get back to you at those times.
I would also strongly recommend when you wake up in the morning, the first thing that you don't do is get on your phone. You need to spend, for me personally, I have a prayer that I do every morning. And then I have a part of a book that I read through, and that will help prep me for the day. It's better that you do something like that, or meditate, or go for a walk, or something along those lines.
Yeah, exercise. I
have coffee and sit around and contemplate. Anything better than just jumping directly on your phone, because you're automatically saying right when you wake up in the morning, I'm gonna spend my day being distracted.
Right. You're setting the tone at the very beginning.
You're setting the tone at the very beginning of your day. So it's better that you're intentional and purposeful with the first 20 minutes of your morning, and it will set the tone for your entire day.
Yep. I when I'm at my best, that's what I do. I will wake up in the morning at hopefully pretty early, so hopefully at 6 a.m. or sometimes even earlier. I will check my phone because sometimes I will get phone calls or text messages overnight because I'm on call at night too. I can't get away from that. So I may get phone calls overnight. I check to make sure there's no important things that have come through, and I put my phone back down. And I do nothing else with it the whole rest of the morning.
That's good.
And I'll go exercise. On my best days, I'll spend some time either meditating or praying or reading and writing, and then get ready for my day and some quiet and solitude. And then I've set that tone for the rest of the day. And if I can do that very first thing in the morning for that first hour and a half, then it really sets the tone, and my time is limited throughout the rest of the day, how much I interact with it. So it's the ideal situation. It doesn't always work like that because
there's a lot of different practices that you can do like that. I mean, whenever you're engaging in an activity, if you'll just purposefully go put your phone away whenever you're engaging in that activity, if you're going to dinner, leave your phone in the car, right? If you're, or actually just leave it at home and then drive to dinner without it.
Oh, God forbid.
Right? Yeah, I know, right?
Don't even bring your phone in the car with you.
Yeah, no, Yeah, leave it at home. So
crazy.
Yeah, so I tell my girls all the time, hey, this today or this weekend or whatever, we're really going to limit how much we're on our phones a lot, and we'll put them away. And that usually that 2 days that we do that, we grow so much closer. And like my girls are so much kinder and more loving, and vice versa. I'm a lot more present with them.
Yep.
When I go to the gym and when I work out now, I put it in a cubby and I put it away. I don't look at it between sets anymore. I'll look at it during cardio because I freaking hate cardio, and I'll play a game during cardio just so I can get myself through it. Because anybody that enjoys cardio, you're a psychopath, first of all. So I will get on my phone during that, and
I listen to books.
Listen to a book.
I listen to audiobooks when I ride.
Yeah.
Or if I'm mountain biking outside, if I'm with someone else, I don't listen to anything. I leave my phone out of the way. But if I'm by myself riding, I'll turn on some music, which is something that is just enjoyable for me when I'm doing that. But I've actually recommended to families to have electronics free times of the evening. So you'll have 3 hours where the whole family takes their phones, they put them in a bucket,
Sure.
and they put it away, and then if you have to access it for whatever reason, then you have to pay. Somehow you have to pay.
Okay.
Or you have to earn it back somehow. And it's not punishment. This is just family commitment to eliminating something from their lives that takes away. It steals that family time. So you get quality time with your girls when you put away your phones. And it's like that for every family. So if you can get those things out of the way, you can get back to quality face-to-face interactions.
And that's just the sad thing is that's just being normal. Because it used to not be this way 20 years ago. Yeah. It wasn't like this.
When we had dumb phones.
Mm-hmm. Yep, flip phone.
I would even recommend that anyone who can make this a part of life, just go back to a dumb phone.
Go back to it absolutely.
Get a phone that does calls and text messages and takes crappy pictures, and that's it.
Or no pictures. Right.
But I would say for people who can get away with that, and I can't. Because I have apps on my phone that I need to interact with my work. But for people who can, just use a dumb phone.
Yeah, I could very easily go to one. Very easily.
I want to.
Yeah, because I could go to one with just phone calls actually and no text.
I need those boundaries.
Yeah,
because I just
let everybody know. I check my email twice a day, and it's in the morning and at night from a computer. And other than that, I don't look at emails.
Yep.
Yeah, I could easily.
I just don't have. I just don't have the self-control to always do it consistently.
Yeah.
On a day-to-day basis, I can do pretty well, but I slip up often enough because that is such a hard thing to have self-control with. And
it is, yeah.
I'm not good at it always.
Well, we should probably wrap up. We're probably getting close to an hour now.
Yeah. Recap our steps.
So there's a 3-step process for doing this. And the first step is that you have to cold turkey off of technology. Really limit all of your technology down to 0 if you can, excluding the family and work apps that you may need. The second step is to start to integrate active leisure type of activities into your life where you're playing golf or tennis or you're learning a new trade or, you want to try out carpentry or gardening or cooking. So you want to get into some more of an active lifestyle into things that you resonate with that are good for you. And then the last step is you want to reintroduce only the technology that you need, not all of technology.
Not time filler technology.
Not time filler technology. No, just the stuff that you need. If you need email on your phone, then you need to re-download that in your phone and not use it on your computer. If you absolutely need to catch up on social media, then it needs to be limited to a certain amount of time per day. So you have to be very deliberate and very intentional. Again, kind of what we were saying at the very beginning of this episode. If you don't care to live an intentional, purposeful life, go listen to a different podcast that's more for entertainment, and then because this one won't be for you, but this is about living it with intention and being purposeful with what you're doing, because you feel like you have purpose in your life and you want to make a difference, not just in your life, but other people's lives as well. You need to take this step so that you can do those types of things.
So I'd say for everyone that's listening, take inventory now and do an honest assessment of where technology stands in your life. If you're using it as a tool that has purpose behind it, or if you're using it as low quality digital noise, time filler, something that steals important time away from you. And if that is the case, then it's probably time for you to take some of these 3 steps. Do this plan or whatever version of the plan that you want to do. You can modify it as you need to, obviously. But if you really want to pursue your goals in life and do something important and make an impact and be successful, you cannot let something like technology steal all this time away from you and steal the years that you have in front of you that are limited to not get to where you want to go.
That's right. Your time. Remember, your time on Earth is limited, so make it count.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's your task from today forward is, even if you don't make changes today, at least do an assessment of where technology fits in your life and be honest with yourself and at least think about it. not everybody's going to be ready to make changes today, but you at least need to look at your life and know where it fits in.
All right. And so, with all that being said, what do we have? What podcast do we have next week? We're going to talk about.
The next one is about dating.
Dating.
Yeah.
Wow. So you being married and dating your wife still.
Yeah.
And me having never been married and dating everybody in my city. We should have a really good.
Once again, we get all the perspectives from both sides.
Yeah. Two completely different perspectives for sure.
I've been dating the same person for.
I don't know if we want my advice on dating. I don't know if it's going to be very good.
Like we said at the beginning, this is also this isn't all about telling people where we've really achieved the biggest successes in our life.
Yeah.
Like,
you guys want to hear about some serious failure next week?
I've been dating the same person for 12 years now. Over 12 years. Yeah. But before that, I dated other people, and obviously those weren't successful. So I have something to offer from both sides of this. So this is all about wins and losses and how we've learned from both of those things.
Right.
So we don't have to have all wins to be able to give people good advice.
Yeah. Well, if you want to hear something about how to ruin relationships, tune in next week and listen to me. If you want to hear about how to have a great one, you can tune in next week and listen to Jason. So, all right. Well, that was it. We had a good one today.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
All right. Bye-bye.